Now or never. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe Gerba. Today I'll be going over Now or Never and how it plays with 2 players. Now or Never is a 1 to 4 player game where you'll be rebuilding the monument after a disaster's happened over many years. Everybody's going to choose their own character. You're going to be rebuilding parts of the town. You're going to be moving your character around, exploring some of the stories, seeing some of the sites, battling monsters, making gold to build more buildings, and hopefully by the end of the game you have the most points to win. So let's see a little bit more how to play. So in Now or Never, there's a couple different ways to play. There's the standard mode where you just kind of play a one-off, but I think this game really shines with the actual story mode. So you'll be following the story campaign. You'll really be playing the game 6 times through story mode, more 6 standard times, but each time you explore or search, you're going to read a passage in the book and the other person is going to have to make a decision based on that. The rest of the game is pretty similar. You're really trying to get buildings into your town, get villagers housed in these buildings to try to produce at the end of the round. So on your turn, you have you can either do a hero action or a specialist action. So all the characters have 3 hero actions. They'll be able to move and then explore that place. And there's anything from search tokens to actual fighting monsters to different areas on the map. There's also a specialist action, which will be used to build your buildings, full heal, get some experience. But when you use them, you have to flip them over. So there's a good balance of action economy in this game where the game is played over 6 rounds. And over those rounds, you'll produce at the end of the round. You'll get all your actions back. You'll flip all your specialists over. So you'll want to get the specialist in your town to do more actions. But you really have a limited action pool in this game where you really have to choose where you want to go on the board, what you want to do, what you want to build, and then at the end of the game, you'll want to build the buildings with the end game scoring. There's a lot to do in this game, and it's just really, really interesting. So I know that was kind of scatterbrained, but just a little bit of the tidbits about this game. So let's see a little bit more what I thought about the game. So the components in this game, there's a lot of them. They're really neat, like the cardboard. Not going to talk too much about it because, to be honest, there's just a lot of components. The rules and references, the rules take you a little bit to get into, but once you play the first game, easy. Even the rule book isn't that bad. But what's really nice is these references. These you can just look at, go down the steps and say, oh, this is what I can do, and then perform that action. Very straightforward game to actually play. And then the rules, most of them come in the rule book. However, you also get kind of some rules to set up at the beginning of each story that you may see. Setup, this is the part that is going to take you a while. If you have to take this out from the box and get this to the table, this is not going to be an easy setup. We do have the luxury of being able to leave it out, so it's a lot easier for us. But if you had to take this off the shelf to play game 3 of the campaign, it'll take you a good 15 to 20 minutes just to get it set up. And that's quite a bit of time, and this game is sprawling, as you can see. It barely kind of fits on our 3x6. We could consolidate a little bit, but there's just so many components to this game to try to keep organized. So let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is really neat. Your town starts blank. You'll be getting these buildings into your town, villagers into the buildings. Hopefully you produce, and then on your turn you can spend those production units, whatever you make, different resources to kind of use at the market action to gain more money, to buy more buildings, to get you more victory points. So that's kind of the cycle you go through, is you're really doing the things on the board and the specialist action to really maximize what you produce at the end of the game. At the end of the game, scoring is a little bit odd. you get rid of everything, and it's only on what you actually produce that you can make money and victory points on. There's not a whole bunch of other ways to get victory points. There are these quest cards, and they are useful when you go to a place. You're allowed to do a quest card and then the action. So most of them cost you resource or some of your health. So they're kind of hit or miss. Some of the bigger quest cards are the end of game, big goal quest cards. If you can finish, you can get a lot of points. But there's really, in this game, is really focused around this building board and trying to maximize your actions and maximize your specialist actions. Think of what specialist you need to buy, because it costs you a little bit more to buy, but you have an extra kind of action during each round, and there's 6 rounds in the game. Deciding if you want to spend your experience on upgrades or some of the quest cards. Do you want to buy some upgrades for your character so you can fight the bigger monsters to get more villagers? The gameplay loop is there. And that kind of gets me onto the point where each game's going to play out the same. Yes, there's 6 chapters, but every game is going to start pretty much blank slate, build your town kind of from the ground up, and then go from there. So it's a good gameplay loop. I would say this game took us about 2.5 to 3 hours per session. That does not include setup, and it was a good time throughout. So let's talk about the replayability. The replayability, to me, well, this is one of those games where if you see on a board game trade or something like that, you can pick it up and then more or less trade it yourself. This is a fun, great game. However, this will not really stay in our collection. This is actually a borrowed copy from Dads and Dice. But if I wouldn't go out and buy this game. This is a game you would play the intro scenario kind of, and then the 6 chapters, and then kind of call this game good. You've kind of explored and exhausted this game. It's a great game, and it's a really fun game. I think everybody should play it. However, the longevity of just getting this and saying, I want to play one game of Now or Never, or let's play a whole campaign of Now or Never, really doesn't intrigue us after we finish the campaign. So let's get down to the brass tacks. Is this game good for 2? And I really enjoy this game for 2. My wife has enjoyed this game. If you add more players, the downtime just grows because you can't really do much on the other player's turn. You do have these anytime actions, but most of them are using the market phase to kind of turn in your resources for money. But this game has a good back and forth. When somebody searches, the other person is going to read their passage, read a couple options. They got to decide what they want to do. And it's just a nice balance at 2 players. Solo, I could see this game being fine solo, but adding the 3rd and 4th players doesn't add enough to the game, I wouldn't think. But 2 players, this is such a good game. The back and forth, the deciding where I want to move, trying to maximize your points. There's not a whole lot you can do to get into the other person's way, other than maybe buy a specialist that they were looking at, or buying a gear that they were looking at. You can also use the other people's specialists. It's going to cost you some coins, and they're going to get some coins. So the back and forth on there is kind of interesting too. We didn't do that too often, but we did find ourselves doing that sometimes, especially when they had a specialist that, say I didn't have. So the gameplay loop itself is fun, but by the 7th game we're getting, we did, it just became kind of the same, and by the end of game 6 we're ready to put it up. So really fun game, fun to beat the monsters. There's a little bit of luck mechanic, but it's a D4, so you're really not, you don't have these big swings of luck. A lot of things to do, a lot of things to think about. High planning, luck versus strategy. It strikes a good balance of both. you know, the tiles that you pick from are actually randomized and you have to choose from a certain way. A lot of good things about this game. Longevity, I'd say, would be the biggest drawback for this game. So Now or Never is a great two-player game. However, does it need to go in a collection? No. But if it's one of those games you can find in like a, for cheaper, and then play it and then pass it on yourself, Now or Never, perfect game. So hope you guys enjoyed the review, and until next time.